Hello, fourth grade. This is Miss Kyle here to do another fantastic lesson with you today from Chapter 9. Our expectations, as always, is for you to have a quiet spot to work, whether that's in your house or maybe on your back porch, as long as you get good internet quality and you can really hear me. It doesn't matter where it is as long as it is quiet so you can be focused. The second thing is to have a positive attitude with you and making sure that you are trying your best and giving yourself a break if you need one. That positive attitude is super important for successful learning. Third of all, you need to have your Chapter 9 workbook, your GoMath Chapter 9, and a pencil to write with. Remember, we are staying away from using pens and markers as much as we possibly can because mistakes happen, and it's important to be able to come back from those mistakes, as in using your eraser and trying again. Let's go ahead and jump in. We are on lesson 9.7 today. Let's take a look at our learning goal. Go ahead and read our learning goal to yourself. And now my turn to read. I will be able to compare decimals. Now, you know what decimals are because we've been talking about them throughout this chapter. But what does it mean to compare them? What does that even mean? Well, I will show you. Comparing usually means that we're using these symbols, greater than, less than, or equal to symbols. And the way to remember which is if you were to see this as like a crocodile, it's always going to be wanting to he's always going to want to eat the larger meal. So if his mouth is open, it's open to the larger meal. So when it's open to the left, it's greater than. When it's open to the right, it's less than because it's showing that the first number is smaller, and then or equal to if they are the same value. So we'll be able to compare decimals like these two right here. So are they greater than, less than, or equal to? Let's think about that. What symbol do you think we would use to compare these two decimals? What do you think? We have 23 hundredths and 3/10. Is 23 hundredths greater than, less than, or equal to 3/10? Now your first thought might be, well, I see a 3 and a 23, so obviously the 23 is greater, right? That wouldn't quite be correct. Let's explore a few reasons why. Now, if we were to draw out these values, we could have a square that represents one whole for each side. And we're breaking up that square based on what value we're working with. So here we're working with 23 hundredths. So I'm going to break up my square into hundredths pieces and then mark out 23 of them. And over here I'm dealing with tenths. So I'm going to break it up into 10 pieces and mark up my 3/10. Should look like this. Now, when we draw things out like this, we can pretty easily see which one is worth more, which one has more value. Over here, you can kind of see that there's like part of 30, but not quite there. And here we have 10, 20, 30 all together. What if we used a number line? Well, I have two number lines here going from 0 to 1 whole. They're both showing the same total, but we're breaking them apart to show our different values. So here we have this one broken apart into hundredths and this one broken apart just by tenths. See if you can find 23 hundredths on this number line. And when you see it, go ahead and just point to it. 23 hundredths. I can see that there's a 2 in my tenths place. Ooh, must be somewhere in here. And then a 3 in my hundredths place. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. Let's see if you got it. Should be right here. That's where your finger should be for showing 23 hundredths. Now let's take a look at our tenths. Where do you think that would be on this number line broken apart by tenths? Go ahead and make sure your finger's pointing on it. Let's see if you got it. 3/10 right here. Now we can see, because our number lines are lined up to show 0 and 1 equally, which of our decimal places, which of our decimal numbers, is further along in the number line, as in which one's closer to 1. I can see that my 3/10 would be. Now let's just say you wanted another way to figure this out. We could do it using fractions. If I were to write 23/100 using fractions, which you guys have gotten so good at doing, I would write 23 over 100. And 3/10 would be written like this. But in order to compare them, we need to find the equivalent fractions so that both denominators are comparing in the same way. They're comparing the same total. So that would allow us to see and actually be able to compare them. So now we can see 23/100 compared to 30/100. I think that shows you pretty clearly which one's larger. And let's just say you wanted another way. We could also use a place value chart. One thing to keep in mind when using a place value chart is always lining up your decimals. Just like we do when we add them together, we always want to line them up when we're comparing them as well. So if we compare lining up our decimals, we have our 23/100 and our 3/10. And if you really want to go the extra mile, you could even fill in this extra 0 here, because any 0 that we're adding on past our decimal is just going to be the same value, because we're just multiplying it by 10 to break apart how many totals we have, but this shows you the same value. Now, here are all these different ways that we can explore which decimal is larger. You can use any of these ways. You can compare using fractions, you can draw out a number line if it makes more sense to you, you can use a model, or you could just use a place value chart. All of these will help you get to the correct answer. So go ahead and point to which of our decimals is larger. I'm hopeful that at this point you have a pretty clear idea of which one's larger. Let's see if you got it. I would read this statement as 23/100 is less than 3/10. Go ahead and repeat that. Awesome job. Let's see if you can figure out these ones. On page 535 of your workbook, you'll see number 2 and number 3. I'd like you to go ahead and pause this and give those two a try. There's already a place value chart ready for you to use to put in your numbers and be able to compare them properly. We're using greater than, less than, or equal to symbols. I'll give you a hint, it is not equal to for either of them. Pause if you need more time. And I'm going to go ahead and reveal the answers. 26/100 is greater than 23/100, and you can see that in our place value chart. When we move through our place values, though they have the same number in the tenths place, the hundredths place is different, so we go for the larger one. Over here we have 7/10 is larger than 54/100. Again, with our numbers that we were working with earlier, you want to be really careful not to let this trick you, because 7/10 is equivalent to 70/100, which would in fact then be larger than 54. Let's see if we can try and give you a challenge. How about 1 6/100 compared to 6/10? Which one is larger? Pause if you need more time. Here we have it. When we're dealing with something that's a whole number, that's instantly going to tell us that it's larger than this one, because this one does not have any whole numbers to it. Now you may come across a few problems that already have the comparison symbol in the middle, but the question is this true or is it false? Is it fake news that this symbol is correct here? So let's think about this. 0.09 otherwise read as 9/100, is greater than 1/10. Is it true or fake news? Go ahead and point to which one you believe it is. Is it true that 9/100 is greater than 1/10? It's fake news. It's false. 1/10 would be larger because if we converted it to hundredths, it would be 10/100 versus 9/100. So this side over here would be greater. So we need a less than symbol, as in 9/100 is actually less than 1/10. Let's see if you can do this next one. Is 0.4 or 4/10 greater than 4/100? True or false? True or fake news? What do you think it is? Point to your answer. All right, and for the big reveal, it is in fact true. If we were to convert our tenths to hundredths, this would be 40/100 compared to 4/100. So we know that this side is in fact larger. So I believe you are ready to get started on comparing decimals in Think Central. So go ahead and log in to Think Central to complete that assignment for the day. And if you have any questions, your teachers are here. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.